Good morning to the veterans and the families in the city of New Bedford and the surrounding areas. I have this morning two guests from the UMASS Dartmouth that work in the Veterans Department. They have one out there now that is helping all the vets that are coming back, plus other students, I'm sure. I have Mr. Ron
Voltz
and Shelly Metivier Scott.
Yes.
And Shelly is the director of the department, and Ron is her assistant. Now, Ron is a student at the school and a veteran, so we're going to see what he knows or doesn't know this morning. First thing is, what type of work, Shelly, have you done before you've taken on this job?
Well, my current role as Associate Dean of Students, prior to that, I have about 20 years experience in student affairs. So I've worked at 5 other institutions across the Northeast for higher education, working with all different kinds of students from all different backgrounds.
Very good. Nothing in the military line, though? You've had to learn
Not directly.
This.
My father and my godfather are both proud veterans of Vietnam. My father in the Navy, and my uncle, who's my godfather, in the Army.
Very good. So you understand a little bit about helping a veteran.
Absolutely.
Dad needs something, he'd let you know about it.
Absolutely, as does my uncle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ron, what did you do before you started going to school, besides the military, probably?
Besides the military, well, military is what I've done. I did it for 20 years.
Oh, good.
So I was my last duty station at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, and I retired in 2006. And a year later, I started to go back to school.
Very
started
good.
college.
What's your major?
Business management is my major.
Oh, that's where the money is, so that's okay. You'll keep us out of the danger zone.
I hope so, yeah.
Your education, where did you get most of it? Through the military?
I started, as far as, a lot of my education was through the military with the skills that we were taught, leadership, management, responsibility, that sort of thing. Because in the military, as you are promoted from private to right up to sergeant major, which I was enlisted, so you're taught and you're trained to how to deal with platoons, platoon sergeants, battalions, the whole 9 yards.
And there's a lot of information you have to learn to make everything work, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And it never leaves you.
No, it doesn't. It's really some of the skills I've learned will stay with me for the rest of my life, especially leadership skills.
Now, what do you tell these young people out there that don't know what they want and where to go, or they're not quite sure? They finish high school, where do I go? Do I work, or do I go here, or do I do nothing, or, you know?
That's a good question, Priscilla. I've often thought about that, and I said if I was in charge, when you graduate out of high school, I would say if you didn't want to go to college, I would say you go in the military for 2 years. I think it's a great way to learn a lot of different type of skills. You get to meet people, you may go a few places, and I think only enhance your skills, make you a better person coming out.
Yeah, and then you feel good about yourself because you can feel yourself growing.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
it is a growth.
Yes, it is.
And it is something you'll bring back to the job that you might decide to take as you get back into the regular world, you know.
I can remember when I was a young man, my dad was a Marine for 23 years.
No wonder you went into the military.
He was in Congressional Medal of Honor. And,
oh, he did?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
I used to,
you give him our best.
Brasso his belts and shiny shoes for him and his uniform, and I was already conditioned for the military.
And you never argued about it?
No.
You did it because it was a proper thing to do.
I didn't argue with my dad.
No, Marines you don't argue with.
No, you don't argue with Marines, no.
Whether you're Army, Navy, or anything
That's
else,
right.
you're not going to argue with the Marines. They're a tough group, but they're a good group.
Yeah. Yes.
I praise the Vietnam vets that come back because they saw a lot.
Yes.
And they were going to end out pretty much the same idea as the Korean vet. Forgotten. They were a conflict. They weren't a war. They were a war, and a bad one. And they stuck up for themselves. They demanded things, and they helped the rest of us that hadn't done that prior.
That's right.
That's right. So we give them a lot of credit. I got a lot of friends at the VFW in Freetown, and they're all Marines.
That's interesting.
Your education was where did you go to college to get to where you got now?
Oh, sure. I went to Clark University in Worcester.
Okay. You came from Worcester?
No, I'm actually from Warwick, Rhode Island.
Oh, okay.
I went to Clark for 4 years, then started working in student affairs. I also taught high school English for a while, and then got my master's degree also at Clark. And from there, continued just to work different places, doing different jobs, but always in student affairs, always working with students.
Did you find them different in different places, the rules, regulations to follow, or are they all similar?
No, they were different in different locations. I
kept
worked
growing.
for private schools, public schools, smaller schools, larger ones. So there was a fair amount of difference. And I worked, one of the places I worked was Drexel University in Philadelphia. And that's unfortunately when 9/11 occurred, and I made a career decision to then move back closer to family. And so, you know, with that, you know, there came more change.
And you're at UMass Dartmouth how long now?
3 years in this position, 6 years total.
Oh, very good. What did you do in the total?
I was the Assistant Director of Housing.
Oh, okay.
And then applied for this position and not knowing whether that would actually happen, and it definitely did. And it's actually been my first formal connection to student veterans, because in the job description of the Associate Dean, it discusses working with specific groups of students, and that includes transfer students, our veterans, our non-traditionally aged students. And so while there are a number of things listed in my job description, the word veterans stood out for me, and I knew that there was more that we could do on our campus. And the opportunity to work with Ron this semester is just one of a few things that we have started to do more of on our campus. So we are growing. We're not where Ron or myself would like us to be quite yet, but we are seeing signs of growth. More and more support. Our new chancellor, Davina Grossman, has been very supportive of the areas that we want to go in. We actually had a meeting face-to-face with her just a couple of weeks ago. We had developed some initiatives with some other colleagues on campus in the Equal Opportunity Office. And so we have a very specific plan of where we'd like to see the university go.
Now, how many approximately percentage-wise do you have as veterans back in school?
I don't have a percentage. I can tell you that we have 161 students that are either veterans or dependents of veterans that are using benefits. We know that that's not every veteran on our campus, because there are some veterans who don't identify.
They don't.
Or they are not using a benefit. And so it's a little trickier to identify those folks. But that's one of the things on our list.
You're trying to get them to at least identify themselves.
Exactly.
Even if they don't ask you for the help. You know.
Exactly.
Their courses, is there anything special that they have different than the regular group that's going to classes?
Not at this time, but on our list, one of the things I would like to do, Priscilla, I think makes a lot of sense, is for orientation. The day that students arrive to our campus, I coordinate orientation, but I would like to have a special part of our orientation just for veterans. I think that there's a value, and I've talked with other veterans on our campus, including Ron, about students being able to connect with other veterans that are starting their journey in higher ed, so that they can support each other, they can know that they're not alone, they can connect in that way that only veterans can connect.
Do they have a room that they can meet in as veterans alone?
They do. Would you like to talk about it, Ron?
You mean up in the library you're talking about? Yeah, we do have a room we can meet in, but the problem is that we're not together. The information isn't out there for them to. We do have a SVA, Student Veterans Association, at the law school, at the UMass Law School, but it's at a different campus, and the majority of vets are on the main campus in UMass Dartmouth.
All right.
So I go up there a lot in the veterans room. It's up in the library, and I meet a lot of vets up there, and I talk to them about what's going on and how's school going, and. But it would be nice if we did have a bigger place, we would call a one-stop shop maybe, where all veterans could meet, talk and sit down and talk about things, help each other, help them with support. Because you know in the military we have a lot of support channels. And getting out of the military, you're pretty much on your own. It's a different world out here. You don't have the support channels that you have. And when I started school at BCC, Bristol Community College, they do have a one-stop shop there. And it made it so much easier as far as classes, professors, and all that stuff. Information was pretty much done for me. I had a veteran advisor, that Beth Vazenza, who was very grateful and instrumental in helping me get through my first 2 years of college. Because college was tough.
It is. It is. It's a whole different
easy.
world.
It's a whole different world.
Even your families don't understand it half the time, and you could be in it for 4 years, and they're wondering what's he doing that? I didn't do that when I went to school, you know. But
yeah. And that's why, and when I transferred to UMass Dartmouth, I noticed there was no one-stop shop. You was on your own pretty much, and that is why I'm now as the veteran assistant at UMass Dartmouth. I would like to see some programs started there as a one-stop shop, something for the veterans to help them get through 2 years or 4 years they may be going through as far as college.
Yeah. When I was in New Bedford High, and I graduated from there, the vets came back from the Second World War. Well, there was an empty room back to back with a French teacher's room, which I was in the class, and they opened it up to the vets. They found the vets were wandering, and they opened it up, and they could go in there and study. They could meet each other. They could have lunch there. And then that way they were relating, and they knew they weren't alone.
Yeah, it's important.
And that's a high school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you're only carrying on the past and doubling and making it even better, and that's great. You didn't drop by the wayside. You know?
Exactly. And that's
The
what
laws don't
that's
drop
what we
by
need
the
now in the
wayside.
university. We need that.
Yeah, you do.
Because we can relate to each
And
other.
it doesn't have to be a big fancy thing.
No.
You just want a place that is quiet and not everybody. Some of the kids like us, we try to go in there because the guys are in there. You know, the vets coming back. We're only kids, and we were told we couldn't go in there. It was off limits. Well, you're talking your own language, just a different ballgame. You've seen something we hadn't seen, you know.
Yeah.
And it does make a difference. You're more mature at 18 than I was when I went in. You know what I'm saying? You can understand that because you know you've been there.
That's right.
And it's a tough thing to make that change.
It is.
Especially when your family don't understand you either. All of a sudden you come home and all of a sudden you sound more intelligent than your father and mother. You know, you got a problem. Well, anyway, you've talked about the services for the vets. Is there any specific thing you know they need as you contact them?
I try to listen a lot as to what is needed, and I think that connection, and what I would like to do is create mentor relationships. I would like some of our veterans, like Ron, who have already made their way on UMass Dartmouth campus as veterans and as students, to share, and I know that spirit is there among the veterans to help one another. I would like to formalize it a bit and recruit as many of our upper class veterans as we have on campus to be mentors and to be at that orientation for the new veterans and create those connections right from the start.
Well, they'd feel so much better getting started when they're lost, just coming in. All these young kids, as they call them, and I hate that word, you know, and what am I doing here? Is it right? Do I belong here? You know, I'm in a different world, and they.
I can walk around campus and pick them out.
Yeah.
You know.
He
I'm
has
not
an
surprised.
uncanny ability. Tell them
Good.
how you
do you pick them out?
I notice certain things, the way
They walk.
the type of backpacks they carry. And if I walk, sometimes I don't always hit them, but most of the time I'm right when I say, "Hi, are you a veteran?" And a lot of times I've been correct. I've been right on the nose with it. And we start talking, and I says, "How's things going?" And they tell me about the classes, they having problems with this. And one thing I wish the universities would do would give us more credit for our experience.
They're supposed to give you credit for your experience.
Yeah, but they're not. They're not really doing
Well,
that.
I got 3% for my English class, and that's it.
Exactly. I mean,
You know, it's in a big, thick book that the dean had, and she looked it up, and she says, "Yeah, I can give you 3 credits for that." I said, "Good one, let's cause."
that's something that's something I've been fighting for a long time. I did 20 years in the military.
You've got a lot of credits, possibly.
I felt I should have gotten more credits for my experience than I did.
You could write a paper, for goodness sakes, and turn it into you, and you have it read to your orientations. Because he's got the experience.
Yeah, right now I got 1 more semester left when I graduate.
And then where you go from there?
I'm going to work on my master's.
Good. Don't stop.
not
Once you
gonna
go, once you start, don't stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You've got new programs you want to do. And you've got those lined up. You say these chancellors are on your side, so that's a big help too.
Yes.
But years ago, we did have a veterans agent on campus. You know
Yes.
that. His
Yeah.
name was Frank, and I worked in DCS as an intern. And his office was just across the way behind a petition. He didn't even have a room in those days, but he was busy. He had vets coming back and forth, and he did it for quite a few years. He's now older and retired, and I saw him at a convention, and he says, "Hey, where you been? I didn't know you were still around." I said, "We don't die. We just fade away."
That's right. We're still around. That's right.
That's what the Marines say, MacArthur. Okay. You enjoy the work, I can tell that. Other groups in other areas of education, other schools and everything, have they got anything similar to what you're doing?
I would say that we are learning from a lot of our peers in the UMass system. UMass Lowell has a system that where they've been able to develop the veteran community. I would say a lot more than we have yet. We're not there yet.
That's the word.
Right. And so, you know, word spreads, word travels among veterans, especially. And so they've grown a program, but they have a veteran center. They have full-time, multiple full-time staff who are devoted to veteran services. They have alumni programs where veteran alumni come back. There are endowed scholarships. There are all kinds of things. And I love that we have that. I love that the University of Massachusetts has grown and developed in these ways. I would like to see it closer to home in Dartmouth with our programs. And it's good because we sort of have like those big brother or big sister to aspire to be like. We may not have the exact same format.
We probably learn from them and improve on it.
Exactly. And they've been very willing to help and share resources and ideas. There's a veteran symposium that occurs every year in Kentucky. I went last year for the first time, but it's a wonderful community of people, and all they do is share all the successes that they have had and the failures, and we all learn from that and move on. And I think now that we've established in the last 3 years the Student Veteran Association, the Veteran Reading Room in the library, the first ever veteran assistant, we don't have Frank, and I would love to have Frank's position return to the university. And these are all things, even credit for military experience that Ron was talking about earlier. All of these were on the initiatives list that we discussed with the chancellor.
Well, a service officer would do a little different work for on the campus. That's what Frank was, a service officer. So he was a veterans agent. You're not agents.
No.
See, so
But
that would
we
be
would like
another
to-
addition to an extension to what you're doing.
So if we had a veteran center and we had a veteran coordinator, say a full-time professional position, they could work with the veterans agent. We could maybe have more space on campus to do things. And luckily the chancellor's been very open to that. And we're now looking to form the committee that will make the formal recommendations as to what we can do next.
Now, ROTC, Providence has the officers training. Would you like that at the university?
We're also exploring that. It's actually the same committee.
Right.
We'll be looking at both ROTC, Sergeant Ventura, I know him pretty well. And so they are on our campus, and they also use the Veteran Reading Room for meetings at times. But we would like to include them in any of the expansion that we do. And the outreach, we know that ROTC is a great resource
Because
for
we do
our
have
students.
an ROTC program at the high school.
Right. And it would be nice for
And
our
our children are
students.
getting scholarships and going on into
Absolutely.
the advance.
And we'd rather not have them have to travel so much to Providence to do some of the drills and things they need to do. We'd rather have them be able to do
closer.
everything on our campus. So that's another reason why this task force or committee is being brought.
Well, hurry it up. My grandson was ROTC, and he was next in command of the group. And so my daughter was, when we were in campus, she was in ROTC too, from the high school. So it's been this generation of mine that's had the military in the house. My father's generation. No, my mother had a brother that was a cook in the Army in the Second World War, or I won't say first. He's the only one I know of that was in the military, because she always told me that about Henry, but I never knew it of anybody else until my brother and myself and my husband were all affiliated with the military, because my husband was in the Army. My brother was in the Army, but I was Air Force. I had to be different. I didn't want to be around. Let's see. An eligible veteran enters your programs. How do you, or can you, explain to them the process, step by step, so they lose some of that fear that they got of going in? You sit down with them individually, and do you have the time?
Yes,
Because you're in school.
I'm a full-time student, yes, and what I do is I give them a card or I give them my cell number, and I try to set up a time frame for them we can meet, sit down and talk. One-on-one, I think they enjoy that. It's relaxing for them, and they can tell me about some of the things that are going on, not only just about school, but it's personal life and whatnot. Because in the military, when you get up to 78, you also become a counselor for your immediate subordinates. So I'm used to that, and so it's giving good feedback and positive feedback to the young soldiers, veterans in school. It gives them it motivates them. It gives them something to think about, and we do get off track. So I kind of like keep them on track, you know. And if they have questions or need to find answers, I would try and find.
Now, if they were having problems at home since they got back and they weren't able to straighten them out, and yet they were in school, can you call the family in and talk to them too? Just in case.
I haven't got to that point yet. I could, but I haven't got to that point. I haven't had any situations
safer than having
like
them so bad off that they, you know, that word with the S word, suicide. I hate that idea that they give up.
Suicide is high right now in the military with veterans right now. It's very high right now.
And if we can eliminate that with the PTSD that's causing some of it, I guess.
Well, you know, think about it. If you're by yourself a lot of times, you have no one to talk to or comrades that you're used to dealing with and being around. It's a different world for you because your family members don't understand you as well.
That's right. You've changed as far as they're concerned. You've got different opinions, ideas, things, and they don't understand.
No, they don't.
I got it when I got back.
And you don't want to. You don't want to tell them. You don't want to tell a family things you've seen and done because
you don't want to even talk about it yourself.
You don't even want to talk about it.
There is a program that works with veterans and their families, the Home Base program. I know that because it's based out of Boston, I went recently and I thought, well, how could that help veterans, you know, here? It's such a long way. But I actually found out that there's a really unique program where a lot of our state police are veterans, and they actually have volunteered with Home Base any veteran or family member that is having challenges and that needs to work through some of this really difficult stuff. The state troopers will actually
meet with them.
No, they will drive door-to-door service.
No kidding.
From wherever, like the South Coast, and bring them right into Boston. To meet with Home Base, which is an excellent program for support, not only for veterans suffering from PTSD and other really difficult things, but also they work with the families. And when you talked about the families, it reminded me.
It is important.
It's good to know.
Right, because we want to go to the experts. You know, we certainly have a counseling center on our campus. We, before she unfortunately passed away, we did have a veteran who was a counselor. Oh gosh.
You remember?
I'd have to look it up for you.
Don't worry about it. It's
she
just
was wonderful. We were just starting.
I'd like people to know out there because they know the people that are working out there. And
I think it was Janice Furtado.
They're good people. I have no problem with, you know, the challenge from the university.
Yeah, I believe her name was Janice Furtado, and we had just started working with her. And so we are not back to that, having that on our campus, but I always like to connect with the experts. You know, we want our veterans to have the very best as far as supports and services and Home Base.
They've seen a lot, and they deserve the very best.
Exactly.
Well, Ron, being in 20 years, you've had 2 or 3 skirmishes in between. You find them all different when the young people come back from them. Those that are now in school, you know, somebody in the Second World War group, they're older, like yourself and my years. Are the things that they bring back that they're suffering through, is it different? Or is everything similar?
That's a good question, Priscilla.
I try.
Yeah, that's
I got you on the ladder.
You got me on the spot on that one. I have to say that a lot of it is similar, like the PTSD. A lot of veterans are going through that. Even Vietnam veterans went through that.
It had a different name in those days.
Had a different name. We didn't have a name for it. That's right. Paraplegics coming back. We had that in Vietnam. Same thing. Wars are pretty much the after effect. A lot to me are the same. It's just we call it different things. Now we got more of a handle on it. We can see what happens, the after effect, and what's going on. And I think the veterans, the Vietnam veterans, they were a different kind of a breed than the young soldiers are today.
They had a different kind of a fight.
Different kind of fight. Yes, it was a different kind of fight.
Both at home, with with the politics
There was
and
more
the war
guts
they
and
had to
glory,
face.
more guts and glory then. Now it's more political and technology today.
Yeah, it's leaving us behind in the sense if we don't grow with it.
Exactly.
And I also wonder if there's a difference because there's so many advances in technology where you can isolate so much easier these days when you come back and you don't want to engage with the world or with your family between, you know, video games and the internet and all of that. I wonder if it's easier for veterans to isolate themselves because there's so many things
Could
they can
be.
do.
Yeah.
Could be.
I'm not
Point.
sure,
That's a
but
good point.
I know in general with our students we
And
see
if they've
that
got a
as a
wife
trend.
and they've got a couple of children, they come back and they take one look at the house, and then the ruckus and everything goes on of living, and they've been away from it for at least a year. And the children are growing up from the baby he held and the baby he comes back to that's running around already. That's in a transition.
Yes, it is. It's tough.
It's tough.
That is a
And the
different type-
family's got to understand it, and that we're not treating that enough, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think it's that they don't want to have that family, or it's just that they're dealing with so many other different problems.
And they're young.
Yeah,
These young people are not even 25, half of
Exactly.
them. And they've lost an arm or something,
That's
and
right.
they've got that problem. They don't need a problem with the wife that they loved all that time. They were away and thought everything was okay, but when he got back,
Because you're not thinking well, you're thinking about your family, but you're thinking about staying alive, you know, surviving over it. You
well,
know?
I want this show to affect the vets out there that you're not touching. That, like you say, a lot of them don't report. They don't turn themselves. They don't, but they need. And if we can just let them know it's out there, we understand it. We want to help you. Go in and make an appointment to see you, even if they're not a student, and you relate them to someone else that could do more for them.
Absolutely.
Because they become withdrawn within themselves, and
That's right.
we need to bring them back out. You know, and they're not going to talk to just anyone.
And the old saying, war is hell, well, it is.
Yeah.
And it affects you in a different way because we're good people. We're not the hateful people. No matter where we go, but we come back pretty rough around the edges.
That's right. And it's going to take a while for that roughness to go away.
That's right.
It's going to take years.
I pray every night that the families can try to understand, and if they don't, get some help themselves. Go to their own doctor. He could be a veteran. Tell them what the problem is at home.
Yeah.
What can I do to help my husband, or, you know, my cousin, my brother, whoever it is.
The more information family members have, the better they can help their spouse.
Because this is a war time of our life, and which I don't approve of. Nobody does. Because it's a dangerous time. It hurts too many people. I think we've met our limit on time, and we will have to come again and pick up where we left off and add some new things. Thank you, Sherry, for coming.
Thank you so
And
much.
thank you, Ron. Nice meeting you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, New Bedford. Join us on our next program.
Are these real?
The best quality.
You mean they're fake?
Only a few dollars.
Only a few dollars.
Only a few dollars. Only a few dollars.
Only a few dollars.
It's not only a few dollars. Counterfeit goods take away jobs, and many are tied to violence and crimes, including child labor, drugs, and gangs. You have the power to stop it. Know the real cost. Don't buy counterfeits.